All right, you guys did it. You hit the like goal on the previous video. I really appreciate you supporting that video. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this one too. But I told you if we hit the like goal in the previous video, I'd make you another video in the What's Wrong With series. I've made a couple of these videos. Going to switch it up a little bit today. I've done What's Wrong with Auburn, What's Wrong with Southern Cal. Up today, what the fuck is wrong with Florida fans? Florida fans, that Florida helmet right there. What in the world has happened to Florida fans? I'm not talking about their team specifically. Now, we're going to have to talk a little bit about their oh, by the way, you know the rules on these videos. 10 minutes or less, start the timer. Put the timer there right now. We're going to have to talk a little bit about the football team in order to understand why it is the fans are so retarded in the way that they are acting and talking about their Florida Gators football team. Now, this is a once proud fan base. This was a team that dominated for a 15 to 20 year period in sort of the early 90s to the late 2000s. They were one of the best teams and programs in all of college football for around that 20-year period or so. And while that is true, it's also true that outside of that 20-year period, the other 100 years that Florida has been playing football, they've been absolute garbage. They've been in the SEC since the very beginning. They won 0 SEC titles in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s. Not a single one. They went on a run starting in the early 90s that they won 7 or 8 SEC championships from the early 90s to the late 2000s, the Steve Spurrier to Urban Meyer period of Florida football. And then after 2008, 2009 to now, absolute and complete total garbage again. 0 SEC titles outside of that 18-year window from basically 1990 to 2008. But I don't understand how Florida fans have sunk to the point where they are literally bragging about losing 5 games last year. I never thought I would see that. Most Florida fans grew up in the era of Spurrier and Urban Meyer. They're used to 10-plus win seasons, competing and winning SEC championships, competing and winning national championships. They won a total of 3 national titles during that 18-year period. Spurrier won 1 national title, which is 1 less than Kirby, by the way. And Urban Meyer won not 1, but 2 national titles in 2006 and 2008. And that was 17, 18 years ago. And here we are now. Florida fans are actually bragging about losing 5 games in a season. Now, I can understand if this is Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas, one of these types of teams that's just absolutely terrible almost every single year and has never really won anything at all. And they get maybe a first-year coach, and that new coach goes 7-5. And that Kentucky or Arkansas or Mississippi State fan is sitting around going, "Oh man, this is great. You know, we won 7 games. But your first year, it can only get better from here." That's not the case here. Number one, we're not talking about Kentucky, Arkansas, or Mississippi State. We're talking about Florida. We're talking about Florida. And this isn't the first year for Billy Napier. This is his 3rd year. And they are bragging about going 7-5, and they've been doing it all off season long, acting like going 7-5, like they're going to use that as some sort of a springboard to now make the playoffs, win the SEC, win a national title, whatever. You were 7-5 in your head coach's 3rd year, and that was the best year he's ever had. I know they went 8-5. They went 7-5 in the regular season. They won their bowl game to finish 8-5. Regardless, it was a 5-loss season. And we all know if Florida would have lost that bowl game instead of won it, the Florida fans would be on here not claiming they were 7-6, but claiming they were 7-5. Oh, the bowl games don't count. No matter, watch those anymore. We were 7-5. I don't care about the bowl game. But if it makes you feel better, and it must make you feel better to say that you were 8-5, then say 8-5. Okay? The bottom line is, in a 5-loss season, in your coach's 3rd year, you think that means you're springboarding to some kind of SEC championship or playoff run? And then they go, "Well, we were better last year than our record indicated. It's just that our schedule was hard." Listen, if you do ever get to the playoffs, which, by the way, Florida has never made it to, guess who you're going to have to play? Hard teams, good teams, top 10 teams. You're going to have to play games outside of your own stadium, okay? Now you have the same schedule this year that you had last year. So you're bragging about going 7-5 with last year's schedule. You have the same schedule this year. The difference is the games are flipped home and away. So what does that mean? That means Florida plays road games at LSU, at Texas A&M, at Ole Miss. That's 3 losses. Florida has not won a road game against a team that finished with a winning record in 5 years. 5 years. That spans 2 different deadbeat coaches. Florida, listen to that again. Florida has not won a road game against any team that finished with a winning record in 5 years. You got to go back to COVID to find a time where Florida was good enough to beat a team on the road that had a winning record. And you've got 3 of those games in the SEC, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and LSU are all going to have winning records this year. So you're not beating any of them. On top of that, you've got a non-con game on the road against Miami. They're going to whip you. They beat you by 40 points last year in the Swamp. Now you have to play them there. They're going to have a winning record this year. That's 4 losses. And we haven't even talked about home games against Texas and Georgia. You're probably going 7-5 again. Are you going to brag again next year when you go 7-5? I seriously wonder, what is wrong with Florida fans that has gotten them to the point where they think 7-5 seasons are reasons to be excited? Again, most of you were alive in the 90s and the 2000s. Most of you Florida fans watching this were alive in the 90s and 2000s. You saw what Florida with the right coach can do. Why are y'all clinging on to Billy Napier like a homeless man clings to his last nickel? It doesn't make any sense. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's in over his head. He's got a 500-person staff for no discernible reason. He hires an offensive coordinator finally, but still insists on calling plays himself because that's worked out so great for him in these 3 years at Florida, right? He got no idea what he's doing. Lagway is a walking emergency room. I like Lagway. He's probably one of the best young quarterbacks in all of college football. Anybody want to make a bet with me right now that he starts all 12 games and finishes all 12 games? No. The guy's an injury waiting to happen. I mean, I don't like injuries. I'm not making fun of him for being injured, but good God, when you're handicapping teams, that was an unintentional pun, by the way, that I'm talking about Lagway and then use the word handicapping. Handicapping is a sports betting term, so no pun intended there. But when you're looking at a team and trying to figure out what he might or might do in a given season, you've got to take into account a guy that has been injured more times than not in the 1 year he's been in college. The guy was injured the entire time last year from week 6 on. Well, he got the starting job in week 6 or week 7 or whatever it was. He basically was the starter for the last 6 games. He missed 1.5 of those games with injuries. He played through injuries in the other games that he didn't miss. He didn't throw a ball at all from January to June because his shoulder hurt. He had a hernia surgery in the offseason. And now with fall camp set to start, he's hobbling around campus in a walking boot. So I just don't understand how Florida fans have sunk so low. They've been on the internet for 8 months bragging that they were beating Georgia in the first quarter. Games are 4 quarters long. You lost that game by 2 touchdowns in a game where Georgia threw 3 interceptions. Georgia gave you 3 extra possessions in that game and still beat you by 2 touchdowns. And you're bragging because you had a lead for 1.5 minutes in the first quarter? What in the fuck is wrong with Florida fans?